see from years ago. We did meet actually. Right, Taizé once, but anyway.
Really?
Another story.
Yes.
So, what's the take you've got on COP21? What has your background and your faith got to contribute, would you say?
I've been interested in the interplay between faith and ecological issues for almost as long as I can remember. And in the last few years I've spoken about it several times. I'm very keen, particularly now as chair of Christian Aid, that the connection should be understood between ecological issues and developmental issues. That's why Christian Aid now has climate change as one of its major priorities. Because of course it's the most vulnerable nations and societies in the world that are most adversely affected by climate change. So my biggest hope for this conference is that the voice of those nations and those societies is going to be heard properly.
So it's a moral issue for you?
It's a deep moral issue. It's an issue, obviously it's a pragmatic issue about survival, but even more than that, it's an issue about justice and about creating an environment where we can genuinely secure each other's well-being.
And do you think such moral arguments have any traction with these, nationalistic interests that are represented here?
It's the biggest problem, of course, because the irony is we're in a world where very few problems are actually just national, and yet we go on behaving and talking as if they were, as if nations can still preserve their interests in spite of what was happening to their neighbours. And that's a luxury we really can't afford now.
So what would you advise, as it were, as an approach for the future? Do you think this is the right way, the way we international conferences like this, or something else?
There's not much alternative to trying to persuade governments to come on board. And that means, I think, a lot of hard advocacy about the interweaving of the interests of different nations. So that's my hope, that people will see that and we keep on pressing that point.
But isn't the traditional view from a Christian perspective that actually think something has to change within us?
That's why in my remarks today I was talking about the spiritual problem of approaching the world as something we possess rather than something we share. And that goes for all forms of political power and well-being as well. So yes, it's not an either-or. I think the big public political changes happen in tandem with a change of attitude. A change of attitude immediately translates into public policy. So I would hope to be saying to some of our leaders something like, repent and believe.
And do you have a particular message in the kind of religious, what you might call war in heaven we have at the moment with radical Islam, fundamentalist Christianity in America? It seems like a bit of a collision course we're on.
It does, I think, because people are very frightened. They seek the default setting of what they think is security. They don't realise that security is always a global, common issue. Now, I see no short-term alternative to force in the Middle East. I just think that the way we are currently deploying force in the Middle East is not proving very effective. We need far more to look at the roots of some of the conflict, who's buying oil from ISIS, who's selling the arms to ISIS, and try and cut off some of this at source rather than just imagining that more aggressive action will solve it. That's a long job.
And what about the debate within Islam in Britain? I mean, are we a bit short of progressive voices, would you say?
I don't think we are, in fact. I really don't. I see quite a lot of young Muslims, both my own students and friends in that world. Without exception, they are dismayed, frightened, appalled by ISIS. It's not their Islam at all. They want to be citizens of the world they actually inhabit, the West, and they're quite prepared to say strong things about this. One of the problems is that there's a bit of a media narrative, as we've seen in recent weeks, which says, oh, they're all really sympathetic to radicalism. And there's a bit of a lack of, focus and visible leadership, because Islam is a very democratic faith, and so you don't have archbishops and the like to pontificate. So that's a challenge.
Do you feel more free now you're not archbishop to say what you think?
Well, I don't think I ever felt terribly inhibited, but it is a help not to think you're under that kind of scrutiny all the time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.